Well, I mean, when you need hearing aids or you have a loss of hearing, you're always turning your head towards people to try to hear them. And I think that's something that, whether we realize it or not, it tells people you have a hearing problem, even if you don't want to admit it. My name is Joan Bullard, and I own Joan Bullard Realty, Inc. in Odell, Illinois. And I love my job. I love what I do. A little bit of a problem is that I was starting to lose my hearing a little bit. Probably I noticed that my hearing was changing when all my kids were going, Mom, Mom, So they're kind of the ones that nagged me more than anyone. And then a couple of my girlfriends, like if I wasn't sitting in the right place when we were all together or at a restaurant, they would have to repeat, or actually I would just miss a lot. This one standing beside me and the one across from me, or a girl, guy, whatever. And it was really becoming difficult. Any type of noise, especially in a restaurant where they're clanging the dishes and that type of thing, that was very, very hard. And I started noticing it. The telephone never bothered me. I always seemed to be able to hear on the telephone better, and especially if I put it on speaker. But my office, it's a small office, but my daughter is probably maybe 50 feet from me, but there is a window in my office, and it's always open. But I would have to go, Missy, what did you say? Missy, what did you say? And she'd go, gosh, Mom, you can't hear anything anymore. And then I noticed that I was missing parts of my clients' conversations. And that kind of scared me a little bit, because sometimes I would just go, oh, yeah. And sometimes I didn't know what I was saying. Oh, yeah, too. So that made me a little bit nervous. So little by little, I just thought, I need to do something. Actually, probably 7 years ago, I went to a doctor because I had an ear infection. And so while I was there, I said, let's just check my hearing. Well, they told me then that in the one ear, I needed a hearing aid. And I just oh man, I'm not going to spend that money. And I figured I probably wouldn't wear it anyway. And so I never went back and checked it. So yeah, probably 7 years it took me to make the plunge. I just thought it was ridiculous to spend that kind of money, and I'm thinking $5,000, but I just didn't think it would do that great of a job. I don't think I had faith in it either, and my husband had a hearing aid, and his was not that great, but he passed away also in 2007. So think about how they've improved him, but that's just, I guess, being stubborn, or it's actually being kind of naive, or whatever we want to call it, that I just didn't want to give in to wearing a hearing aid. I just thought they were a pain because my husband had one, and anytime if that thing would go off, and my brother, he had two, and he had them for several years, and poor Danny, he'd have to turn them down and everything, and I just thought, I'm not going through all that. That was the biggest thing for me. And 7 years ago, they didn't have them hidden like they have them now. I just kind of got tired of saying what or not saying what, not asking them to repeat it, acting like I knew what they said, So I just decided I was going to check out somebody good. So I went in on Yelp and I checked out several places. And the place that I ended up at here, they had one of the highest rankings. And those girls had very high rankings that took care of me. And so I decided to go with them. And I talked to a couple of people, and they go, oh, go to so-and-so. Oh, go to so-and-so. And I said, okay. So I looked up their rankings and stuff, and they didn't have the testimonials that these girls had. And so I went with them. I had that testing about 7 years ago, and I was so confused on the testing 7 years ago that I thought there was times when I probably should have pushed this little button and I didn't, I was pretty nervous about the testing part. And they did it in increments. They didn't leave me in there forever in this little hot box, because that's what it is, And so they were very good about that. I was very relaxed after I went through the first segment of the testing. That made a big difference to me. I felt like I had a truer test than I had 7 years before that. Well, I expected them to tell me I needed a hearing aid. What I didn't expect was I didn't expect that I needed them in both ears. I had just had it in my mind. And when I said to her, that's the price for one? And she goes, no, Joan, you have to have them in both ears. And I go, and it was kind of, you can call it vain or whatever, but I was kind of like, wow. And I remember telling Missy when I got back to the office, I said, wow, I have to have them in both ears. I just didn't think I was that bad, I guess. I didn't want to admit it. It didn't surprise me, but it kind of did, like I said, because both ears. But I knew it couldn't be good. I already made up my mind to. So I wasn't shocked or anything. But it's kind of, it's kind of hard to absorb that a little bit. She was very kind, very nice, very kind. So asked me, do you understand it? And I have a girlfriend that she has taught special ed children, and she also has a degree in this field also. And so I took her the test results and let her see them. And she goes, this is exactly the way it should be. I had went to another company one time and I almost got ripped off, and I got the money stopped. And my girlfriend said, Joan, what is wrong with you? This guy was going to rip you off. He didn't even give you a printout. And it was an ad that I saw for a place here in town. So I thought, oh, I'm going to go down there and just see what they say about my hearing, because it was terrible the way I was hearing at the time. Well, he actually checked both of my ears. And I'm going to feel like an idiot telling you this, but I had a really bad earache one time, and I put cotton in it. And somehow or another, I kept pushing that cotton in there. And he took a piece of cotton out of my ear that was infected. And so, it was a huge piece of cotton. And he said, oh my gosh, no wonder you couldn't hear anything. But then he still told me I needed hearing aids. And I didn't feel like I did, but I thought, oh my gosh, well, I'll just get one. I was a nice guy, and it was a couple of $1,000s. And so I'm kind of getting away from my story here, but that night I went out for dinner with my girlfriends, and I said, well, I did it today. I bought a hearing aid. And Kathleen goes, did you really? And I go, yeah. And I was telling her where and everything. She said, let me see the printout. And I go, I didn't get a printout. She goes, what do you mean you didn't get a printout? And so then she said, you call down there right now and you cancel that until I see a printout. And so it was like Friday night, I said, and so I left a message on his answering machine. I said, call me tomorrow morning because I'm stopping this, And boy, they were really upset with me that I stopped this, And I said, well, do you have a printout for me? And he goes, no. And eventually somebody told me that they were shut down. So I was kind of hesitant, So that's why I went to an ear, nose, and throat specialist the next time. And then that's another reason that I went on Yelp to check all of this out. And then I checked with Kathleen and she said, no, I think they're probably a very good office. And then when she saw my printout, she said they did everything right. Stick with these people. I would say it didn't really mean much to me at that moment. It meant something to me when I got home and I turned my television on, because I'd been using closed caption forever, And I couldn't believe the difference in the TV. And I kept turning it down and turning it down and turning it down. That was my big thing. It was like, wow, I can't believe the difference. And I never watched TV without them in. Really, it's amazing what I had missed, even trying to read, So that was the biggest thing for me. And then, of course, the next day, and I didn't tell people. There's very few people I told, just so I could, maybe understand them a little bit more. And it was people that would say to me, Joan, didn't you hear me? Or the kids, And so it took a few days for me to realize how valuable they really are. I go to Heartland for several things. I graduated from Heartland College. And so I get invited to a lot of things with Heartland. And I'm just lost. I don't hear half of it as what I was doing. And we just had a meeting about maybe 2 months ago to pick the people that's coming up in award. And I was so happy because I was in the room, and they sit at great big huge tables, which are kind of ridiculous sometimes because there's not that many of us. But like maybe the person will be where that white door is from me. And, I couldn't hear anything. And I was having to vote on stuff. So I was like, oh, man, I'm so glad that I can hear something, And so that, I have a setting on my phone for the noise. And also, another thing that I did was I could take my phone and I took it up by the guy that was doing the talking and I set it up there by him. I had that I can do that on my telephone with these hearing aids too. So I don't know if I'm sure the girls told them that. But for me, that's a very big deal because I do go to a lot of meetings and stuff. So I took it up and I put it by the doctor and I could, really hear him really good. Well, I mean, when you need hearing aids or you have a loss of hearing, you're always turning your head towards people to try to hear them. And I think that's something that, whether we realize it or not, it tells people you have a hearing problem, even if you don't want to admit it. I think probably people was absolutely the biggest thing. I mean, people that I never had a problem hearing people that talked distinct and talked pretty loud. But it's those people that, like my beautician, half the time I didn't even know what she was talking about, And what I do now is after she washes my hair and dries it, then I put my hearing aids in because I can't obviously have them in at the time. But I tell her, and she knows I have them now. She didn't know it before, So we don't talk much until we get to that point because she has a very, very low voice, So it's very hard to understand her. So any distinct noises or anything, I probably couldn't really hear you as well today. I mean, and you have a nice, clear, loud voice, but I probably couldn't hear you as well. Music, oh my gosh. The way I listen to music compared to how I used to. Yeah, I love that. Like I can have my, I have one in two different rooms, but I have my Alexa and I can say, like the other day I told her, play me Toby Keith music. Okay, I don't have to have it up the loudest. I can hear it from the bedroom into the living room. And then my daughter came by because we were going out for breakfast, my other daughter, and she goes, oh, you got Toby Keith on. And I go, yeah. And she said, well, where's it coming from? And so I took her back and I said, it's from my Alexa. So, that I really enjoy the music and television. I mean, it's just the two that it's unbelievable, the difference. Oh yeah. Now some people still talk low and you still have a problem, but yes, all in all, absolutely. It's just, life changing. I mean, it truly is. When you have your hearing aids in and everything is good, it is less stress. And I mean, like my job, I have a lot of stress. Very few jobs do you not have stress. So this is just one less stress factor. So it has made a big difference in my life. And I think just being in a crowd, like the other night, all of us girls were out for dinner again. And I was sitting on the far end, but we were planning our trip that we're leaving this week for Michigan. And I could hear everything everybody said, So that was nice. And we were in a restaurant, but we were at a table where Kathleen picked out the table because she kind of knows you have to be away from the kitchen where all the pots and pans and the clanging, because I don't care how good the hearing aids are, it's going to be interference. But I also, on my phone, have a noise factor that I can go to. I mean, these hearing aids are they're just fantastic. I was just saying when I came in here, I have a good friend that told me he could have saved me a couple of $1,000s by going to Costco. And I said, really? But he doesn't want all this on his phone. And see, I said, oh, no. I said, can you use yours, from your phone? Oh, I don't want all that stuff, he said. He's an attorney. And I was in a couple of closings with him a couple of weeks ago. And he's sitting way over here at the table and I'm up here at the top and I can hear them. Lots of times at my closings, I had to make sure I was sitting where I could hear everybody. So yeah, it's been a life changer for me. And some days, I'll be honest, some days I just decide not to wear them because maybe I just think they're going to be kind of a pain because I have COPD and I'm on oxygen. So sometimes by the time I get them in my ear and my oxygen on and my sunglasses, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, which one do I want to do without? And so sometimes, like just riding in the car or something, I will not put them in. And I have to be very careful because when I take my oxygen off, I can lose my hearing aids. And we went to a concert a week ago Friday night in Fairbury, and I was so anxious to leave them in to hear the guys and kind of see how it was in a crowd. It was a little room. And as I was getting out of the car, I lost one of them. And I didn't realize it till I got inside. But when we got ready to leave, I got right back in the car. I went out in the street, wasn't there. I said, I know it's right by my oxygen, but it was nighttime. It was right there. So, I have to be more alert and more careful. I missed a lot. Probably things I don't even know that I missed. So yeah, it's stubbornness. It's like I don't have time to do it. It's a lot of things. But it is kind of hard to make yourself go get those hearing aids too. Because I'm 74 and it's just another step towards the other side, So it's kind of like, okay, I'm 74 and I'm just now getting hearing aids. Everybody be proud of me, Well, I needed them 8 years ago, but that doesn't matter, So yeah, it's, I wish I would have done it sooner, yeah. And you still have problems. I mean, you still don't hear everything because you have a hearing problem. They can't make them perfect for you, but it can sure make your life better. At least go get the exam and go somewhere good. Make sure, I would always recommend these girls. I mean, I would. But make sure you know where you're going, because I was almost ripped off once. And I didn't care even for the eye, ear, nose, and throat specialist. I did not care for the way that they tested me. It wasn't explained to me. I didn't feel. These girls went through every step with me, and they made me feel very comfortable. So I felt like I had a good test. It wasn't like I didn't push the button or I didn't say yes or no or whatever, enough times. I felt like it was a true test and that I needed them. And I would recommend that everybody, it is a lot of money. And the sad part is Medicare doesn't pay for any of this. And a lot of people can't afford it, So I'm sure there's so many people out there that need it. I was lucky I was able to pay for it, So if they can't, they should be asking and seeing if they can't get donations from somewhere. Because I know the Lions Club helps people. There's so many organizations out there that would help somebody that was really, really in need. So I would say, do what you have to do, but go do it.